This is Political Psychology, and I'm your professor, Dr. Patrick Stewart. In this lesson, we consider leadership and group dynamics. We do so by focusing on how followers assess and respond to leaders themselves, especially when the leaders themselves have gone bad. We specifically consider the specific traits and behaviors that lead to behavior that is ultimately bad for the followers whose group suffers while the leader benefits disproportionately. This knowledge ought to help us do a better job of diagnosing those who would harm our survival chances. We next consider how we, as evolved creatures, make decisions that are mismatched for our current environment. This is much like how our desire to consume protein, fats, and simple carbohydrates in our evolutionary adapted environment, where these things are relatively scarce, has led us to obesity through fast food that provides low-quality forms of those nutrients in modern society. As regards groups and group leaders, we often make our choices based upon poor information and quick decision-making that does not benefit us in our self-created survival niches. Finally, we consider how we can address these problems by first overcoming those that are too powerful, and then by doing a better job of choosing the leaders that serve us and help us deal with our modern world. Although humans have an instinct for leaders who show reciprocity, fairness, and a hierarchy based upon generosity, we humans have the potential to fall for individuals who exhibit the dark triad of personality traits that include narcissism, Machiavellianism, and psychopathy. These traits may be defined as distinct yet overlapping in the leaders who we have a blind spot for. Narcissistic leaders are selfish with a sense of entitlement, a lack of empathy, and a need for admiration. These individuals lead their lives in a quest for glory and status, while all of us, if we are healthy psychologically, have some attributes of narcissism, we can keep it under control by engaging in self-reflection. We can also be open to new information and be willing to consider the larger picture regarding our legacy. Those who are unhealthy about it see themselves without considering others as entities unto themselves. Instead, they consider them as tools to be used. While Machiavelli is considered one of the original political scientists with his contribution, The Prince, and was likely very much unlike the personality trait associated with him, Machiavellianism has come to be considered a trait of dangerous leaders. Here we see Machiavellian leaders as being realistic about themselves and not necessarily interested in impressing others, but being selfish and calculating through their use of charm, confidence, and cunning to achieve their goals. In other words, to Machiavellians, the ends justify the means. Finally, psychopaths are typically associated with serial murderers due to their disregard for others, lack of empathy and remorse, and being deceitful. However, they live amongst us even when they do not kill others, and are seen as fearless and immune to stress to the point of lacking the empathy to appreciate when someone else is fearful or sad. Taken together, individuals with a dark triad of personality characteristics can be seen as dangerous leaders because they are so charming and remorseless. One key attribute to look for is to consider how transactional an individual is, as well as the level of loyalty they have to others. Furthermore, one key diagnostic I have found to be useful is whether they're willing to tell a joke and laugh at their own expense. If they're not willing to do so, they might be a member of the dark triad. Those individuals who relish the rewards of power are quite obviously more likely to strive to obtain the positions that give them power. They tend to use a variety of steps or strategies to enhance power. The first and most obvious way of doing this is expanding one's power base through nepotism and corruption. It makes sense to keep wealth in one's own family and to obtain as much resources as possible from the public good. The second, albeit less obvious way of enhancing power is to provide public goods efficiently and generously. While this may be seen as common sense, It can also be seen as buying votes from those that support you instead of considering an entire society, including future members of a society and others who do not have a strong voice. The next three steps involve dominance moves. Obviously, while the government is seen as the only legal means of using force, removing the ability of the public to respond to threats to their independence, often by disarming the public, and by monopolizing the use of force through subverting policing and military agencies, allows dictators, both potential and existing, to curb public violence and maintain peace forcibly. At the same time, these individuals will eliminate their political enemies by bribing, neutralizing, or removing them from positions of oversight and power. A final dominance move is to be seen as combating a common enemy, even if this means creating one in the process. Because defeating external threats involves central command and control structures, this effectively enhances the power of a leader. The final two steps to increase power involve psychological means of manipulation. The first form is that of manipulating the hearts and minds of followers through controlling the flow of information. Eliminating free press and trust in the press itself is a major means by which a corrupt leader can accumulate power. In essence, the leader controls what the public sees and hears. However, the leader can also control how they interpret the world by creating an ideology. Historically, political leaders were also religious leaders. More recently, as politics and religion were separated, cults of personality have sprung up around leaders, oftentimes with their complete assent.